back to today's episode of Bassin. I'm your host, Thad Moody. As you can see, the robe's on, so it means we're going to drop some knowledge on you today. Today is another hot topic, and as always, I've got my handy dandy notebook with me. Today's topic is, are bass tournaments truly affecting our black bass populations? And we're going to cover three main types of black bass species. And I'm sorry, I got my iPad right here, I gotta keep that screen going. Three main black bass species, that's hard to say. Which are going to be your spotted bass, your largemouth bass, and your smallmouth bass. Yes, I know there are other bass that are caught in these tournaments, such as shoalies and meanmouth, and that possibly new discovered one up in Arkansas that they just found. So, yes, I understand those are in the black bass species families as well, but we're going to talk about the big three right now. And we're going to go on my personal thoughts and opinions, and then we're going to kind of look at this study done at Auburn University by a Benjamin Ricks on it is on the effects of tournament fishing on dispersal population characteristics and mortality of black bass in Lake Martin in Alabama. So this is a peer-reviewed study done by the University of Auburn University over in Alabama. So we're going to kind of look at that, but let's go over my thoughts and opinions first, some of the stuff that I know from working in the world of fisheries. So, how does tournament angling affect the black bass species? Well, both negatively and positively in their own ways. Let's look at the positives first. The positive ways is, you know what's out there. If a lot of non-wanted size bass are caught, you know, like your smaller bass, you're mainly catching dinks, the catching's not very good. Tournaments with great anglers can let you know that something is wrong in that lake, and it's very easy to do from tournament fishing, knowing that something is wrong in that lake if something completely changes, catching changes and all that. And that does lead to clues, especially if the anglers work with the fisheries biologists and the lake managers to help correct said problems. Now let's look at the negatives, because there are some negatives. And I am not knocking tournament fishing by any means. I'm a tournament bass angler. I do my best to take care of fish. I do. But let's be realistic, not everything is going to survive, no matter what. Some tournaments have survival rates that are higher than others. We're going to look at your bass style, the bringing in 5 fish versus your MLF style. The Bass Pro Tour, where it is a catch, weight, release. And those have mortality rates too. First, let's look at bringing in 5 fish tournaments. A lot of these tournaments can have mortality rates anywhere from 25 to 65%. Due to what's known as delayed mortality. That means they're not dead when you put them in the water, but in 2 weeks they are. And that Auburn study does cover a little bit in that. So we're going to get back into that. So let's look at how these fish die in these 5 fish tournaments. Let's first look at what happens in the live well. These fish are put in a live well that is small, it's enclosed, some don't have great filtration, some don't have great oxygenation. And they are living in their own waste at that point in that small enclosed area, especially if you don't have great filtration. If you ever pulled a big bass out of a live well and you see it's got like this red tinge in its mouth and kind of around its gill plates, and especially on its fins, well, that means there's a lot of urea and ammonia inside that live well, and that's very unhealthy for that fish, and that can cause high stress. Blowing and going down the water 75 miles an hour while fishing in a live well can cause high stress. Fish don't handle stress well, especially big ones. They don't handle stress well at all, and that can very much kill these fish. High stress rates are probably one of the leading causes of fish deaths in these tournaments. So if you don't have great filtration, you put all the G-juice stuff you want in there. If you don't have great filtration and you don't tend to these fish, they have a much higher mortality rate. Especially if you don't put something in that live well to help preserve their slime coat. We're going to get slime coat in a little bit. Next, people throw ice in there. You can put ice in a live well all you want, but if you're fishing in June, people do it in the summer mainly. If you do it in July and August and beginning of September here in Mississippi, when this water temperature is 95, 96 degrees, and you put ice on your live well and you put that fish in that live well, and it goes from 90 something degree water to 70 something degree water, that throws that fish into shock, which is also very unhealthy for that fish and causes more stress, can kill the fish as well. So if you're going to cool down water, cool it down slowly, a little bit at a time, just enough where it lowers it down and decreases some stress, because you don't want to throw that fish into shock at all. So we kind of looked at them banging and banging around the live well. We've looked at make sure you don't freeze them out, throw them into shock. We've looked at the ammonia and stuff in there. Now let's look at improper handling of them. If you net that fish with a dry net, or you boat flip it like they do, you see a lot in the MLF style fishing, the Bass Pro Tour, where it hits the deck, or they grab it dry hand, they football it right here on their shirt and stuff, and that removes that slime coat. Well, guess what? You've pretty much sentenced that fish, unless you put some stuff on it to help revitalize that slime coat. You pretty much sentenced that fish to a slow and painful death from fungal and bacterial infections. If y'all go and look on my Instagram, some of my shorts, you'll see a giant bug-eyed bass that is struggling. And it's because it has severe bacterial infection and fungal infection in and around parts of its body due to mishandling and missing of its slime coat. So, on the Bass Pro Tour, when they boat flip that fish, they weigh it right there and release it. Well, you boat flipping it or footballing it, carrying it like that takes off a ton of that slime coat, and that is just as bad as leaving that fish in a hot live well for 8 hours and bringing it in. It's high stress, remove slime coat, kill the fish. It's horrible for it. So don't do that. Don't boat flip them. If you want to grab them, make sure your hands are wet. Kayak style guys, kayak fishing guys, the KBF and the other ones, people like that all the time brag about conservation. If you grab that fish with dry hand or handle it with dry hands, or if you don't wet your catch board or whatever board you use, or you boat flip the thing in your kayak and there's no moisture in the bottom of your kayak, there's no water in there, guess what? You've killed that fish. You have now sentenced it to a slow death with delayed mortality. So people can say the mortality rate of catch and release, is 25 to 35%, which, don't get me wrong, the CPR, catch, photo release, or catch, weight release tournaments do have a lower mortality rate than a lot of your 5-boat tournaments. And that's done by the studies, shown by science, guys. Those do have a lower mortality rate than your 5 fish in a boat tournaments, but there's still a mortality rate. You can still lose up to 25 to 35, sometimes 45% in some of these studies shown of fish dying off. It's a science, guys. It's there. And you don't see it right away. You might not see it for a month because the fish has that okay immune system and is able to slowly fight off that fungal infection for a while, but it still winds up dying from the stress of it. The delayed mortality is where a lot of your mortality comes from. You can throw them fish back in there and revive them all you want to. You say, oh, I saw some way, it's fine. It's fine now, but it's dead down the road. There's nothing you can do about it. Unless, if it's in your live well, you put stuff in there to help preserve the slime coat, or if it's a CPR, you don't boat flip it, you don't grab it like a football, and make sure your net, the rubber ones work better than the old school, braided ones, because it kind of helps preserve their slime coat a little bit more. Make sure your net's wet, or if you grab them or boat flip them on your deck and it takes off that slime coat, that's horrible for the fish, and it's a death sentence. So, in all these tournaments, you're going to find a mortality rate of some percentage, whether it be 25 or, in the summer, some of these things showing 65% mortality rate. Is that a bad thing always? No. Fish do need to get taken out of the body's water. They need to be killed off. Now, is it good to kill an 8-pounder versus 8 1-pounders? Not really. That's your big breeding stock that's passing on fantastic genetics and has learned to survive in there, and it's a very fit fish to survive, pass on strength that much and get that big. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. Yes, fish need to be taken out of these lakes. Tournament fishing, the die-off afterwards, is one way we'd remove some, but they're not always ones you want to have removed. It's better to take out the smaller dinks than it is the big, the big breeding stock. And even if you cull one out, that fish has been there live well 6 hours, you cull it out and it slowly swims away. Well, is it going to live? It's 50-50 a lot of the time. So in that manner, tournament fishing is in fact having an effect on our black bass populations, whether it be mortality dying in the live well whether it be delayed mortality, whether it be 100 other factors, but they are in fact having an effect on our bass populations. It's not always a super negative effect, but it is an effect on them. Another effect that we've seen, highly pressured lakes, like one in North Mississippi. You used to go there and catch 8-9 pounders all day. Omar Bruce in North Mississippi, just north of Tupelo, home of Elvis Presley himself. It was a fantastic fishery, and then there's like 2 and 3 tournaments a week on it now, and it went from 40-pound bags winning it to like 10-pound bags winning it. And these fish just got smart. These fish are trained what not to bite. They're knowing what not to bite at this point. It's kind of like the whole front facing sonar. Up there, that's one of the highly pressured lakes that I talked about in my last video. You hold that beam on them for a while, they ain't biting at all. I caught more fish without front facing sonar than I did with front facing sonar up there. So they very much they're learning, they're adapting to our fishing styles, they're adapting to tournaments. Because these fish didn't learn and adapt, we would never have to have all kinds of new lures. We could still throw that same, there's devil horse. I got my old retired wood lures up there from the old antique ones. We could be throwing those today and catching fish left and right. But these fish are learning and they adapt to different lure styles. So tournament fishing has had an effect in that manner as well. Now another thing people always talk about is, the Bass Pro Tour, the MLF style, the catch and release style, the kayak fishing, and the Bass Pros Tour, where they just wait and toss it right back out, is fish dispersion. Are these fish going back to the areas you caught them? If you catch them on a bed, are they going right back to it? Well, on the kayak stuff side of things, the MLF side, yes. You toss it back, 500 yards, they're going to find their way back to their bed. Sometimes a mile away, they'll find their way back to the area for which they were. Bass are somewhat territorial. Some of them are. They have their areas they like to hunt. They have their ways they like to hunt. They have their specific things in and out, just like we do. This we're getting to say with Auburn. So let's look at bringing these fish in from a 5-fish tournament. On a lake like Lamar Roots, that's 300-400 acres, they probably find their way back anywhere in the lake. If you weigh them in at the boat ramp, put them back in the water right there, they'll find their way back 9 out of 10 times. These bigger lakes like Lake Martin and Gunnersville and Wheeler, you bring these bass in, or they find their way back. Maybe. What this study that Auburn did, the effects of tournament fishing on dispersal, population characteristics, and mortality of black bass in Lake Martin, what they did is they used radio telemetry and tag fish to see are these fish going back to the areas for which they were originally caught. And they had a 7% recovery rate from a bunch of tagged bass. So what they did is go out there and shock up these bass, stick a tag in them, do some radio telemetry on them. Some of them had like radio tags, some of them just had like a tag. You can catch fish, see the tag, you call it in and get the information on it. They had like a 7% catch rate, which is a really high catch rate back on these fish. And what they found out is a high proportion of 50% release tournament caught largemouth remained within 3 kilometers, about 1.5 miles, of the release site for up to 3 months. So for 3 months, these bass stayed within 3 kilometers of the area for which they were released. So if you took them into boat ramp A, they stayed within a 3-mile radius of boat ramp A for 3 months. Some stayed there permanently. We also learned that spotted bass had a larger range. Of course, they're more traveled anyway. They normally stay within 4 kilometers versus the 3-kilometer range of the largemouth bass. And of course, there's no smallies there, but smallies, their stress level, the smallies are easy to die. They're slow growing fish. 5-pound smallies is an old fish compared to a 5-pound largemouth. Those fish get stressed, period. They die real easy, real quick. They're fun to catch. They're hard fighters. My goodness, they're very fragile fish. So the smallmouth fisheries is a whole other story on that. All the stuff I've talked about with largemouth and spots right here, you can double it for smallies a lot of the time. But what this study is showing that these fish stayed within 3 kilometers. And the way they did a mortality rate, especially on your radio tagged ones, is, and they tag some out of these tournaments when they were released, and once that fish stops moving for so long, it's dead. They do the same thing with wolves and bears. Like, this wolf ain't moved in 3 days, it's dead. This cougar ain't moved, 3 days from this, 5-meter spot, it's dead. And the same thing with fish. It's what they do with these fish. And they learn that, some tournaments, depending on how they were handled stuff in the time of the year, up to 65% of these fish were dead from mishandling tournament. And people say, that's why we need to go strictly to catch and release tournaments or have a marshal on the boat. That doesn't matter. You still have a mortality rate because of them, Love Dustin kind of, he does such a great job with fish. Same with Mark Dennis Jr., same with Wheeler, same with, Octopo and all them. But they both flip a fish and it hits that carpet and it removes that slime coat. They wait and toss it right back in the water. You probably won't have a 50% mortality rate of those fish too. It's not going to be as high because they catch so many more fish where they don't boat flip them. They catch them up, grab them up so they don't get that penalty, which I love the fact that they get a penalty for boat flipping a fish or touching, mishandling of the fish, because they know, that prevents mortality rate from improper handling. So when they get that penalty and that fish touches the boat like that and it's thrown back in, yeah, it's live now, it may be live and strong for 2 weeks. Slime coat's removed, that fungus and bacteria are slowly going to take up and eat those fish. I know y'all caught fish, had bad spots on them, or fuzzy spots on them, or slowly growing fuzzy spots on them, or they're completely blind in one eye, and all kind of stuff. And all that can be caused from mishandling of fish in these tournaments. You can be mishandling of fish when you're just going out fun fishing with your friends. And that's the other side of the thing. Our tournament's hurting, if you look at, let's say, an Elite Series tournament, those guys, the amount of fish they catch in that 1 week between pre-fishing and the tournament itself, is the amount of fish killed, negligible compared to the amount that the locals kill doing the same thing, boat flipping, keeping them small, Thursday nighters, Wednesday nighters, Sunday afternooners, or whatever, is what these major tournaments are doing really having an effect compared to what your locals are doing. Just even out there fun fishing, the mortality rate on that. A kid catches a big bass and drag it up on the bank. That's the same thing as boat flipping. It takes the slime coat away, you throw it back in, there's a 50-50 chance the fish is going to die. It's all about handling them. So I think that the pros and a lot of tournaments are put under a microscope because somebody's like, it's your fault, it's your fault. We know your name, it's your fault. You. It's not. Guys, it's not their fault. Major tournament trails are not having a true negative effect on fisheries populations. Even local fishermen are not having a true negative effect on fisheries populations. Are they killing some fish? Yeah, 100%. If them elites, catch 1,000 fish total and 500 of them die, that's 500 dead fish, and that may be 2,000 pounds of dead fish. But you know what? That's a 20,000 acre lake or a 10,000 acre lake. That is a drop in the bucket from what actually needs to be taken out of the lake every year anyway. May not be the right ones that need to be taken out, your big breeders and such, but it still, has to be taken out so that lake doesn't hit carrying capacity. So are they hurting it and having a negative effect on fish populations? Probably not. Are they having an effect on fish populations of some way? Yes, but more along the lines of their fish are becoming smarter from facing sonar, stuff like that. So tournaments are having an effect overall on black bass species. Yes, you're going to have, 40 to 50% mortality rate in tournaments. Yes, even the catch and release and the kayak guys, like I said, you don't wet that board, don't wet your hand, something like that. You hold that fish there and it removes all the slime coat, killing that fish too, just like these guys in the 5-fish tournaments. You ain't innocent. I'm guilty of it. I try my best every single time, but sometimes you get caught up in the heat of the moment. You got a 9-pound bass on your board. You mess up sometimes. Guys, it's okay. It's okay to mess up. These fish can still survive. It's a flip of a coin. Sometimes they do, but they still have a chance to survive. But it all goes back to the true cause of fish decline, not only by tournaments, but just in general. And that is, we gotta take more fish out anyway. Are more tournaments training fish to make them bite less? Probably. Are fish getting harder to catch? Yes, because if they weren't, we wouldn't have to design new lures and stuff. Are the carrying capacity of lakes being exceeded currently? A lot of the times, 100%. But overall, tournaments are not the problem, in my opinion. They are not the problem, but they do add to the problem. They're not the whole problem, nor are they the whole solution on population control. But overall, I'm going to say the negative effects of tournaments are outweighed by what happens from the locals, the weekenders, the Saturdayers, the weekend warriors. So, yeah, tournaments you're gonna have death, but you're gonna have from every time you hook a fish, there's a chance that fish could die. Bad hook, hook it in the gill, gut hook it, breaks off, swallows a hook, treble hook, breaks your line, gets wrapped up, a high braid, can't ever break it off, slowly starves to death right there. You boat flip it, you bring it up on the bank and your kid catches it, removes the slime coat, dies of fungal infection, pollutants in the water, natural predators. Turtles and alligators you gotta eat too. If y'all see a cool video, check it out. Did some alligator hunting this past weekend on Rod and Reel, because you have to do it in Rod and Reel, Mississippi, because what you see on TV is fake. Predators are gonna eat the ones that die. It's a part of the natural ecosystem. So as far as bass tournaments go, the effects are minimal. As far as weekend warriors go, catch release is such high at this point. The more that die from that stuff's actually probably helping the lake. So take what I said with a grain of salt. Make your own assumptions. I'm not here to tell you tournaments are bad, tournaments are good. I'm here just to give you the facts to help you make your own assumptions. That's solely what I'm doing this for. Make your own assumptions. Look at the studies. Don't just think, well, back in the day, science changed, facts change. But what they thought was true back in the day ain't always true anymore. Look stuff up. You have so much information right here, or in your cell phone, the palm of your hand. You have a world of information. That's why these young kids are so much better than these old timers. They ain't front facing sonar, because they watch KVD on replay 100,000 times, watching what he's doing. He's watching Christine Fisher, the way she casts, watching Ott Defoe, what he does, watching Wheeler, what they do. They have so much more access to information now than they've ever had. That's why they're much better fishermen, because everybody puts what they're doing on YouTube. The pros have all the old reruns are all on YouTube. So use your information, make your own assumptions, make your own educated guesses, make your own educated thoughts. I'm just here to give y'all some information. That's it. Come at me in the comments if you want to. I'll happily bring you on. We'll do it live. We'll have a civil conversation on stuff. I may learn something, you may learn something. But don't hate tournament fishermen because you think they're ruining bass fishing. Don't hate these young guys because they're front facing sonar. Don't hate, the weekend warrior because you think they're taking too many out. Guys, just fishing. Go out, have fun. Be good conservationists, be good stewards of our land, take your kid fishing, and make sure we have something to bring these kids for the next generation. I hope this kind of rant today, it was a rant around today, let's be honest, it's 100% what it was. Take this information I've given you, make your own assumptions. Guys, as always, have a good one. I'm out.